What is up, everyone? It's me, Jrod, the filmmaker, former film major, frequent fighting gamer from Philadelphia, and I am back with a review of the newest military power to enter the streaming wars, Paramount Plus. Now, it's been over a year since my last streamer review, which was HBO Max. HBO Max is now my favorite and most used streaming service of all time. I watch more shows on there than on Netflix, than on Disney Plus, than on all of them. And there's so many good shows that every time I finish a show, there's already 2 to 3 new shows for me to watch. Recently, I enjoyed Hacks, Starstruck, and I'm currently watching The Sopranos. But this video is all about my experience with Paramount Plus for a week, so without further ado, let's get into that. And guys, if you could do me a favor and hit me with a 3-hit combo. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. It would be perfect. So similar to my HBO Max review, I had to watch at least one thing from all of the streamer special categories. And on Paramount Plus, these categories are known as brands. And the brands are as follows: CBS, BET, Comedy Central, MTV, and Nickelodeon. Oh, and the Smithsonian Channel. But before I get into that, there were a couple of hiccups that I ran into. And the first one was that when I went to make a Paramount Plus account for the first time ever, it said that my email address was already used. And it took me a while to realize why, but I think the solution is that Paramount Plus is just the newest version of CBS All Access. So if you've ever made a CBS All Access account, then technically you have a Paramount Plus account. Now, I'm not sure if this applies to all of the other brands, like if you made an MTV account or a Nickelodeon account or any of the other ones, but you'll still be able to get the free trial as I was, even if you already have had a CBS All Access or one of the other accounts in the past. So now, starting off with CBS. I was mainly watching Big Brother. I have always been a huge fan of Big Brother, and the 23rd season just recently started. Now, in addition to the episodes and the extra features, Paramount Plus is also now home to the Big Brother 24-hour live streams. If you know anything about Big Brother, the 24-hour live feeds are what makes Big Brother Big Brother, the fact that you can watch the show at any point in the day. And I know that there are thousands of people who need to watch these live streams regardless of which website or streaming service they're hosted on. Now, personally, I wouldn't get Paramount Plus solely for the live streams, but if you are a Big Brother fan and you have Paramount Plus, it's a pretty big bonus. Then next up is BET, and BET had a nice library of new shows and classic shows. They also have some shows from channels like VH1 in this section. But for me, there was one show on here that I couldn't wait to stream, and that show is Everybody Hates Chris. Now, this show is fairly recent, but in my opinion, it is one of those classic black sitcoms, and it is up there with shows like Martin, Fresh Prince, My Wife and Kids, and others. And this was the only show I watched on BET, but I have no regrets because Everybody Hates Chris is still hilarious and I enjoy streaming it. Then Comedy Central is another huge library, but I noticed instantly that there were some shows missing. They have shows like Nathan For You, Ugly Americans, and this is even the 3rd streamer that I know of that has The Chappelle Show. I'm going to stay away from The Chappelle Show personally, but I really wanted to watch Broad City, and it wasn't available. Then there was this Broad City BTS style spin-off show, and I don't know, I found it kind of strange that they didn't have Broad City, but they had a show spun off of Broad City. So in this section, I just watched Nathan For You and a couple episodes of Comedy Central Presents, the half-hour stand-up show. MTV, another library full of new and classic shows, but I was much more excited for the classics in this specific category. Starting with animated show Clone High. This is a pretty well-known show from Lord Miller, but I didn't even know this show existed until recently. And since it was only 13 episodes, I got to watch the entire show, which I enjoyed. It was hilarious. There was also True Life and Made, and they all fulfilled my need for that early 2000s cringe, I mean nostalgia. And then I also tried to watch the show Next, but the first episode that was available was so obviously scripted and so hard to watch that I just left it at the one episode. I would have watched the newest season of The Challenge. However, this newest season of The Challenge was not under the MTV section. And we'll talk more about that later. Then finally, there was a similar conundrum as Broad City. The show Catfish was not available to stream, but there was a spin-off show called Catfish Trolls. Now, I swear I wouldn't really be fixated on watching Catfish. It's not my favorite show, but the fact that I saw the spin-off show made me want to look for Catfish, and then when I looked, it wasn't there. So it's kind of like they're drawing attention to their own missing content that I wouldn't have thought about otherwise. So it's an odd choice, really. Next section is Nickelodeon, and Nickelodeon easily had the most shows that I wanted to watch. From the 90s cartoons like Hey Arnold and Cat Dog to the live action classics like Kenan and Kel, The Amanda Show, all that, to even further back to the game shows like Legends of the Hidden Temple, Guts, Double Dare, and even Nick Arcade, which was really, it's a much more rare and hard to find show than the other game shows, and I enjoy watching all of them. I even went back and watched an episode of Gullah Gullah Island just because I could, and it's been decades since the last time I watched Gullah Gullah Island. I also watched Danny Phantom, Chalk Zone, and much more, and I could watch the Nickelodeon library for days easily. And some of these shows didn't even age well. Like, I'm 25 now, so the childish humor of certain shows, specifically like the sketch comedy shows, The Amanda Show, and all that, it doesn't really make me laugh anymore. But you know, for these shows, I would still watch them for the nostalgia. The next up, last brand we have on the list is the Smithsonian Channel. This channel was never on my radar. I didn't even know what shows they have. I've never even seen it on television before. But I just randomly decided to watch a show called Stories from the Vault, basically because Tom Cavanaugh from The Flash was hosting it. And the show was watchable. Yeah, perfectly watchable. So this section has a lot of historical and nature documentaries. So if that's what you're looking for, then this brand is made for you. But that is not all that Paramount Plus had to offer. There are some movies and there are some Paramount Plus original shows. For movies, I watched The Quiet Place 1 and 2. Now, I know The Quiet Place 1 has been out for a while, but I never checked it out. But now that I have seen both films, I thought they were great. It seems like John Krasinski is a really strong director. It's a really good concept. Here's me and Rick Sanchez's review of The Quiet Place 1.
Wait, shh. It's too quiet.
Alright, and here is our review of The Quiet Place 2.
Now it's not quiet enough.
Then there was the Dora Explorer movie and Bill and Ted Face the Music. Both of these movies were hilarious and I enjoyed watching them. For original series, I started with The Challenge All-Stars. Now normally, like I said, The Challenge would be an MTV show, but this newest season was a Paramount Plus exclusive. And the season really had everything you'd expect from a normal season of The Challenge, except for the fact that it featured a lot of challengers that hadn't played the game for years. I've been watching The Challenge for a couple seasons now, so I know a lot of the returning faces. However, in this season, I only knew about 4 or 5 of the players, and the rest were veterans that played way back years before when I wasn't even really into the show that much. Then there is the elephant in the room, known as the iCarly reboot. Whew, this was one of the first things that I watched on the service altogether. It's one of the first shows I ever watched on the service. But guys, I gotta be honest, it was not it, chief. It's generally awkward, the jokes are kind of dry, and unlike the other Nick and MTV shows, the nostalgia was not enough to keep me watching, so I only watched 2 episodes. It's strange because it doesn't really feel like the old show, and it doesn't feel like this new millennial experience that they touted it as. It honestly just feels like, what if iCarly kept going on after it should not have kept going on? But maybe, if you're an iCarly superfan, you might love this show, but it honestly was not for me. Then there are actually a good amount of original shows. I didn't get to check them all out, but there's a show called Evil, starring Mike Coulter. There's a Real World Reunion. There's a SpongeBob 3D animated show. There's a Rugrats 3D animated show. a show called Why Women Kill, and then any show that previously was a CBS All Access original is now a Paramount Plus original. And this includes Star Trek Picard, Star Trek Discovery, and Star Trek Lower Decks. Not a huge Star Trek fan, but I do enjoy watching Lower Decks. And then there was other shows like the Twilight Zone reboot and much more. Now, I personally think the selection of original shows was actually pretty robust for a brand new streamer. So that's all of the content that I checked out in 1 week of Paramount Plus. But I actually still have the streamer for another month, so I will continue to check it out, and maybe it'll become one of my new favorites. Now, do I think that the streaming service is worth it? I'd have to say yes, I do think the streaming service is worth it because I expect to watch everything that I wanted in 1 week, and I'm still finding new things that I want to watch on Paramount Plus. And on top of that, it's not the most expensive streamer. It is only $4.99 a month with ads and $9.99 a month without ads. Personally, I would never get the ad-supported version, but it's good that they have that option for people who don't want to spend too much on the streaming service. And if you're wondering, if you still don't know whether it'll be worth it for you, just do what I did. Get the 1 week free trial, check out as many different programs in as many different categories as you can, and by the end of that week, you will know whether or not the streaming service is worth it for you. So guys, that is it. That is my review of Paramount Plus, one of the newest streamers, and honestly, it has a lot of great content. A lot of like the Viacom what do you call it? The Viacom bubble of content is a really great library featuring a lot of shows that you don't often get to stream. So the fact that they are all available now, they're all together in one place for a pretty reasonable price, I think that Paramount Plus is actually worth it. But guys, that is going to be it for this review. So I want you to tell me what your favorite streaming service is. Tell me if you feel me. And guys, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Oh, also, next week's video is going to be slightly related to this video, so I'm going to record it right after this, and I'll even give you guys a sneak peek. So check that out, and I'll see you guys next week in that new video. Peace out.
Some really stupid passwords.
Alright, we know the password. So now
Follow
what?
this human. He said something about Armquist.
Which one? Did he start running? He kinda did. Just casually walking, and then it's like, you know what? Let me just run.
Immediately knew they were coming for me, so I started running as fast as I could.